Hello, welcome. Today we're going to talk about bread and kind of healthy versus unhealthy um, breads that are out there. Because I love bread, and but I know that bread gets a bad rap as being unhealthy, especially if you're trying to diet. And there's just a lot of, I guess, mixed information out there about this. Um, but truth is, there's evidence that there's certain types of breads that are actually have many health benefits for you. So I want to kind of talk about some of the issues with bread, and then some healthy alternatives and things like that. So I kind of identified four things that you come across pretty often with bread that is like unhealthy or problematic. It might be the better word to use. So I'm going to talk about those four things and kind of some possible alternatives for those issues. So the first thing is what's called the glycemic index, which basically is a measure of how quickly a food causes our blood sugar to rise, and food and bread gets is often cited as something that spikes our blood sugar, which can lead to all kinds of issues. And it is true for certain types of bread, but that is typically just for kind of white, unrefined bread. Is the kind that most often that you'll find that with. And it's important to realize that there are a lot of other types of breads that are delicious, this is not the case. There's a lot of them, and I should point out now, there's a vlog that I'll link to this, not a vlog, but a blog that I will put in the description that goes into more detail about this stuff, and you could feel free to read that. There's also links to my resources that I use for this, as well as some products that you might want to, if you're interested. For instance, talk about like just three of the healthier options that don't lead to this spike in blood sugar. One being sprouted breads. Ezekiel bread is often the go-to in this category. I have a link to where you can kind of buy that. Rye bread is also touted as being healthy and not leading to this blood sugar spike, as well as sourdough bread, which is one of my favorites. And so you can, again, read the blog if you want more information on why that is and a little bit about these breads, but I just want to kind of point out, and there's other types, but I'm just pointing out three popular ones. So that's an alternative for you if that's something that you're worried about, and if you've been traditionally eating white breads, I would recommend you kind of shift from that to some of these other types. The second thing that is a problematic with a lot of store-bought breads is the preservatives that are in them. Things such as sunflower oil, canola oil, and other processed oils that are really not good for you. They cause inflammation and other issues. And so the alternative there is to kind of seek out the breads I maybe mentioned above, or you could go to a local bakery or your farmer's market and kind of ask how they prepare their bread. But most of the times, those two options will not be using preservatives. They're gonna bake it without preservatives. One of the kind of gold standards is if the bread is able to last longer than a few days at room temperature, if it doesn't get hard, then there's most likely a preservative in it. So just keep that in mind. Again, I'll leave some links to some store-bought bread that you can actually find in your local grocery store that are actually good options. So take a look at that. But things like Ezekiel bread, Dave's Killer bread are usually pretty good options. So that's the second thing there was preservatives. So third issue that some people have with bread is if they have celiac disease. This is a big one. It's kind of tough, and I feel bad. I have a lot of people in my family that actually have that. So basically, if you are having adverse reactions to breads, I'm not a doctor, but I just know this from the people close to me who have this. If you're having adverse reactions to wheat products, you should get tested for celiac disease. If unfortunately you do have it, you pretty much need to avoid all wheat products, including bread. But the good thing is that there are gluten-free options out there. Um, and I will again leave some links in the description to some good products. One thing I will say though about gluten-free options, just because they're gluten-free doesn't mean they're healthy. They still could have some of the problems that other unrefined white breads have. So you want to make sure you're getting the quality gluten-free bread. Again, you can read a little more about that in my blog if you want. All right, so then the fourth category here is people who have gluten sensitivities, but not necessarily celiac disease. These people probably still want to avoid wheat products, but it is possible that through like trial and error, they might figure out that they could eat something like sourdough bread or rye bread that have lower gluten content, lower gluten count. And that's just something that they need to kind of experiment with. Another option is this gluten sensitivity could be sometimes more related to the preservatives that are in these store-bought breads and pastas and things like that. And you may want to try making your own. I know that's not always a great option for people, but I have a recipe for making your own bread that's super simple. So yeah, like those are kind of the four categories that I've come across that most people have issues with bread. Let me know if you have other things that you think I missed in this. I know there's another issue that's worth pointing out where certain bakeries, you might even be worth asking like your local bakery where you get stuff, use like instant yeast, and they don't allow their dough to rise over extended period. Like studies have shown that allowing the dough to rise at like 10 to 12 hours will make the bread a little healthier for you. So those are also some things to consider. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I am going to have please check the description for links to my resources and different products. Thanks.